Jeff Kingston, you know, we've got the Fukushima crisis changing daily. We've got a compensation fund which has got to be approved. We've got a supplementary budget that needs to be approved. We've got credit concerns as the crisis at Tokyo Electric Power Company deepens. Well, he could be here for a while, couldn't he?
And we still have 100,000 evacuees in evacuation centers. So, I mean, this is why voters in Japan are just disgusted with the fiasco yesterday, a total distraction from all the important jobs that need to be done. The best that can come out of this is that Kan has been transformed from being a liability to the DPJ to a bargaining chip. What they're saying to the opposition LDP, if you stop stonewalling legislation, and we pass the legislation we need on the debt, on tax reform, on various issues, that we will sacrifice Kan. So that's the best case scenario, but I have to say I'm pretty pessimistic. It looks like more policy paralysis.
Yeah, but when he does go, is there any chance of any better leadership?
No, the real problem is under the Japanese parliamentary system, it's awfully easy to look bad as a prime minister. Basically, the LDP's policy has been to stonewall all legislation. And so that inevitably makes the prime minister look bad, sinking ratings in public opinion polls. And so it's the pattern over the last 5 years that's played out. You last maybe a year, and then you're out. And this instability at the top and the vacuum in the diet is a real problem for Japan. And it means that the national interest is being sacrificed for petty political ambitions and settling of vendettas.
Professor Kingston, very quickly, got a breaking headline at the moment coming out of the Prime Minister's office. This is Mr. Edano, his spokesman, saying the government has decided to cut civil servant pay and bonuses. Does this surprise you? He said we are getting some action out of him, and perhaps is this a real attempt to cut debts?
Well, I think that will play well in the theater of politics. I mean, it's a easier thing for him to do. It'll be interesting to see how the civil servant unions respond to this, but certainly bureaucrat bashing plays well in Japan. I mean, Kan has actually tried to do a lot of things, and if you compare the response of the Kan administration to the LDP-dominated government in Kobe in 1995, Kan has responded to this much more complex catastrophe far better. And if you compare them to the situation with Katrina and BP, it's not been such a bad thing, but voters haven't really been willing to give him a break, and I think people are just disgusted with politics here.
Yeah, well, I'm just we've got more headlines just coming out of the Prime Minister's office here as well. It's not just restricted to civil servants, this pay cut. We've got him cutting his own pay by 30%. He's cutting ministers' pay by 20%. Is this an attempt to perhaps get the public back on track and back on side with him?
Well, I think it's the politicians' recognition that their political games have turned off Japanese voters. Kan's not going to notice. He's actually stopped taking any salary since last month. So the third cut isn't going to make much difference. I think that this will play okay, but really I think that people in Japan want politicians to roll up the sleeves and get the job done, stop with the political games, and I think people are really fed up with the inaction. And overseas, you see Moody's and other rating agencies are going to downgrade Japanese sovereign debt if they continue with this policy paralysis.
What about the role of Ichiro OZAWA in all this, too?
Well, yes, he has never quite accepted his defeat in the DPJ presidential election last September, so I think that everybody interprets this as a settling of scores. But the fact that the no-confidence motion was defeated handily and that the DPJ backed Kan, I think it means that OZAWA is even further damaged goods. He's also under indictment for political campaign financing violations. So I think that the DPJ tried to paper over the deep rift within the party by making the agreement that Kan would step down. But right now, you know, they're arguing about exactly when that will happen. And so, more or less, we're at the same position as we were before the no-confidence vote. deeply divided party and an opposition committed to stonewalling all legislation. It doesn't look very
Jeff
good.
Kingston.
Japanese politics has hit an all-time low.
Jeff Kingston, thank you for your analysis.